Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/ProRevenge. In today's episode, wife cheated, so I tricked her into publicly admitting to having the affair and herpes. After that, how my dad conned a con man, then ruined his conning business. Finally, cheat on me and no one goes on vacation. Before we get into today's episode, remember to subscribe so you never miss another episode of r/ProRevenge. Wife cheated, so I tricked her into publicly admitting to having the affair and herpes. Okay, so I'm the co-worker that encouraged him to post this. Unfortunately your account has to be 7 days old to post here, so I gifted him an all-time 8 for a joke about a month ago. This story is about 12 years old. I told it to one of my co-workers yesterday and he said I should share it to Reddit. Today he again nudged me, so here we are having drinks before the 4-day weekend and my writing is complete. So first time here and hi y'all. Sorry if there are typos. I included it too long, didn't read at the end. In college, I met the woman who I thought was my one. We dated for about 2 years and had a big ass wedding after a 10-month engagement. Her family was pretty well to do in a small southern town. We were both continuing our educations and I was also working to support us. I was pursuing a master's in engineering while she was finishing her doctorate in anthropology. Over the summer an opportunity came up for her to make some extra money going as an aide on a religious studies trip to Jamaica. I didn't hesitate when she asked me about it. I mean, she was going to get to visit Jamaica and get paid for it. I saw no downside other than missing her being at home for 6 weeks. Little did I know at the time, but she had been freaking the professor. He had hung out with us, smoked my weed and drank my freaking beer. I considered him a friend who arranged the trip for a couple months and it was a getaway for them to bang all over the island. I, clueless and happy, went about the weeks while she was gone taking extra shifts so I could match what she made in our account and surprise her. What a dipit, right? One of the students from the trip actually seeked me out to clue me in. I didn't believe him until I started looking for evidence on my own. I broke down and checked her texts while she was sleeping and nothing was there. There were a few VMs, so I decided to listen and there it was. A message from that giant AOLA saying how exciting it was that I almost caught them. I opened up her laptop and hit the emails after that. It was piles and piles of it, making fun of me for not knowing. Freaking in our bed and laughing about it. There was so much and I was so heartbroken. Still too hurt to take any action. I was lost. I had no idea what to do, so I sat on it for a couple weeks and acted as normally as I could. I noticed everything now. I felt so stupid for not seeing it before. So many signs. One stuck out in particular. I noticed that our stash of homemade weed lube, if you've never tried it, I highly recommend giving it a go, was going down even though we weren't having sex. It was obvious they were also using the fruits of my labor to get off more effectively. This really pissed me off. Like unreasonably so. Hulk freaking mad. It finally all hit me. I was a goddamn joke to these a-holes and they were using the lube I made and freaking in my bed. I didn't hurt anymore. I just wanted to make them hurt. So, while she was studying at the library, I made a new batch of lube. I put enough weed in it for it to smell like normal, but I also added some poison ivy from our backyard to the mixture, and after refilling the spray bottle we use for application, I waited. A few days go by and I'm working extra so I can be out of the house more, and bam, bait taken. That night after she goes to sleep my plan goes into action. I sneak her phone away and delete my contact, while replacing his phone number in his contact as mine. I go to bed, but can't sleep, because it feels like I'm 5 and tomorrow is Christmas. Dawn arrives and she's in the shower. I get a text. I'm super itchy, are you okay? Now Lord, now is my time. Look, I thought it had cleared up, but I guess I had a flare up. I'm sorry, but I've got herpes, and I guess you do now too. I heard this itch squeak in the shower. I'm covering my mouth, damn near losing it. I went on to tell her that it was time to end things now. A new semester was about to start and I kind of have a little crush on another TA. I wanted her mad. This is a woman that never got told no growing up and never had to deal with rejection. let alone from a balding dude in his 50s with herpes. When she got out of the shower it was obvious she had been crying, but I could see the anger in her eyes. I could see how uncomfortable she was squirming at the table drinking coffee and mulling the situation over. Another little nudge is what she needed. The reply she got to her pages and pages of anger and sadness was, "Thanks for the good times, but can you keep this a secret between us? I don't want to ruin my chances with anyone else." She's flush with anger now, just seething. She gathered her keys and headed out the door without even saying goodbye. I knew where she was going. I booted up her laptop and set it to reformat, deleting her dissertation and any notes pertaining to it before following her to campus. I parked a few lots over and rush over to his office where I find her screaming at him for giving her herpes. There's lots of people there. Professors, aides, students, other faculty. I'm dying. He is beyond embarrassed and confused as frick. She is ugly crying in front of her peers. I'm in heaven. I didn't even care that people were going to think I had herpes too. The fallout was apocalyptic in their department. He lost his job due to code of conduct at the university. We got divorced the following year. State law was we had to be separated for 1 full year before being granted a divorce. I got to keep most of the assets, primarily savings, and not a ton, but I worked for it. She never finished her doctorate and went on to be a perpetually pregnant housewife that sells Herbalife on Facebook, and he teaches high school now. It took a few years for it all to unfold, but watching it was glorious. How my dad conned a con man, then ruined his conning business. Years ago, shortly after I moved out, my dad decided he wanted to remodel his bathroom and hired a local contractor, who I will refer to as DB, to do it. That fixed a clogged sink for him once. From the start my dad was extremely skeptical of contractors and did not want to get scammed. So after they agreed on the price for labor, my dad asked him for an invoice for the cost of all the materials. He took said invoice to one of his co-workers whose bill was a plumber or in construction or something to look over the list of materials and see if the quote was fair. And right off the bat DB was trying to do close to a 50% markup on the materials. So, instead of paying DB's invoice, my dad just bought all the materials himself, saying he knows a guy who gives him amazing discounts so DB doesn't get suspicious that my dad was onto his game. After 3 months the bathroom is not close to being done despite DB telling him it would take 2 months. My dad had to travel for work and would be gone a week, so he asked me to house sit, make sure DB shows up to work and does not steal it. Right off the bat DB tries to be all buddy with me, but I did not like the guy and just brushed him off, asking how the bathroom was coming. Over the course of the week DB tried to upsell me on a bunch of things he said needed to be done to finish the bathroom. Most of it was electrical work which he did not have a license for. My dad filled me in before he left about what was quoted in the labor, and there was no electrical work quoted, and I told him no, just stick to the original quote. Once my dad comes back I filled him in on all the additional charges DB tried to tack on. He also did not show up for 3 days, saying he hurt his shoulder tripping over his cat. Then he tried to install the new ceiling light which he was not asked to install, because we had an electrician coming to install it. After a heated discussion between DB and I, he stopped installing the ceiling light and started laying tile, during which he broke a quarter of the tiles. After this debacle my dad did some investigating and looked up DB's license and found out that not only was the license expired, it did not belong to DB. So my dad asked my brother and I to come over when he was going to confront DB about lying about his license. A very heated argument broke out when my dad refused to let DB to enter the house to collect his tool and said we would bring the tools out to him. DB then threatened to press charges against me for assault when I accidentally brushed his shoulder when I was passing him in the hallway, and I refused to apologize. After the cops showed up DB quickly tried to play the victim, but the cops told DB to collect his tools and leave. The bathroom still unfinished, but my dad did not have to pay DB for his 3 months of labor and use that money to hire real contractors to finish the bathroom. It only took them a week and a half to finish. After this my dad contacted the local news to tell them about DB being a conman. A few months later the news did an investigation story about him and they found other people DB scammed, where DB would start to work on their bathroom, but once he got paid he would cut and run, leaving the bathroom unfinished and stealing all the materials. The news then set up a sting for DB and exposed him for being a conman, and he was arrested not long after the news story aired. Cheat on me and no one goes on vacation. My ex and I used to go to a Cancun resort every year with a bunch of our mutual friends. I found out my ex was cheating on me when I accidentally got a flight confirmation email that he booked tickets for himself and the other girl. It was rough. Tried to have a civil breakup, but he refused to pay me for the Cancun vacation that I had already prepaid. I tried to get my money back, but he refused. After our breakup, it took me several weeks to find a new place to live and move my things out of his house. On the last trip to the house, I asked him one last time for the money and he again refused. So I accidentally packed his current passport in my last box of things and left my expired passport in its place. Since he has already booked the tickets, he apparently didn't check the passport until he was at the airport and was denied the international flight because he didn't have a current passport. I never did get my money, but I did get immense satisfaction that he didn't get to go on vacation. Updated. I gave the passport back a couple weeks later when I discovered it in a box of things to unpack. So weird, right? He asked for a refund for the flights and I told him I would be happy to if he refunded me for the resort, which was much more expensive. He declined.